Following the address of President Ahmed Tinubu at the second edition of the National Economic Council Conference, Vice President Kashim Shettima has implored governors of the 36 states of the Federation, ministers, and other public officials to work towards achieving the kind of inclusive growth and economic progress that trickles down to the everyday lives of Nigerians. According to him, the prevailing wisdom among developed economies has moved beyond growth for its own sake to sustainable growth that accommodates all citizens. In his welcome remarks, Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Senator Atiku Bagudu, lauded the efforts and contributions of INEC to the gains recorded in, contributions of NEC to the gains recorded in the economy. Senator Bagudu expressed hope that the NEC conference will provide the forum with an opportunity to generate the consensus needed to support the creation of the trillion-dollar economy. Joining us on this show to highlight NEC's role in shaping Nigeria's economic destiny is Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, Minister of Budget and Economic Planning. Good morning, Minister Bagudu, and good to have you on the morning show. Hello, sir. Hello.
Thank you very much, and good morning, all.
Very
yes, good morning. I can hear you.
Okay. Well, Minister Bagudu, you were the person that convened the conference, second national conference of the National Economic Council. You invited 300 delegates for a two-day conference. Now that the conference is over, how do you feel? Do you feel a sense of accomplishment? And then immediately, we would like you to tell us about what you think you have accomplished in terms of the takeaways. I said earlier on this program that I would rather go with the statements by the president, and that every other person that was speaking was just, being sycophantic and rubbing the back of the president in terms of the promises and reassurances that he gave. So I would just like you to respond to those issues.
Thank you, Ruben. Well, first, the convener is the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We are their faithful servants. He's the Chairman of the National Economic Council, a body he leads brilliantly and well. And, of course, we are delighted that the conference took place. We are delighted that Mr. President attended both the opening and closing ceremony. During the opening ceremony, he came in person. He delivered the opening remarks, as well as at the closing ceremony, he was represented by the Senate President, where he also provided the closing remarks. So that is a demonstration of how important the conference is to this administration, and in particular to Mr. President. Equally, for the chairman, the vice president, state governors who are members, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, members of the cabinet, as well as honorable commissioners, development partners, facilitators, moderators, members of the media, and all those who facilitated, and the secretariat that worked hard. We are all very pleased that the conference took place, and being the second National Economic Council conference, we are delighted that it achieved the purpose of taking a step back and look at what we have been doing over the last 2.5, close to 3 years now, and reflect on all that we have done, appreciative of the fact that the National Economic Council is the institution that is most central to management of our federalism, to say what have we done and what can we do better? What can we do differently? And I'm sure, and share with those who are non-members, take input from those who are non-members and demonstrate that for us, it is not a monologue, it is a dialogue. We want to say, this is what we are doing. We want to hear how others think, how we can do better, particularly at a time when we are about to finalize the second of our national development plan called Renewed Hope National Development Plan 2026 to 2030, which is a document that will convey where we hope to be by the year 2030. And so we are very delighted that broadly we have had a number of things we know that the reforms that have been undertaken in the last 2 years and 6 months are broadly achieved the measures that we hope they will achieve, whereas there's need to do more. Mr. President is benevolent in appreciating that much as we have done well, we need to do better. And equally, the Vice President captures that we need to ensure that everyone is included in a sustainable manner. And luckily, one of the strategies approved by the National Economic Council, among numerous measures, is a plan to ensure that the 8,809 wards of Nigeria are made centers of prosperity by a combined effort of the 3 tiers of government as enshrined in the Constitution, and to work together to map the potential of each of these wards, identify potentials, identify the challenges, particularly drivers of poverty in those wards, and put a program in place where each ward will identify and mobilize economically active persons and businesses in those wards that over time can be supported to generate more growth and prosperity. By doing so, we believe we'll share prosperity, will include everyone. Equally, we have appreciated that based on a national agricultural census plan published last year by the National Bureau of Statistics and Central Bank of Nigeria, we have no less than 42 million households undertaking one form of agricultural production or the other. How do we ensure that all of these 42 million households, using a totality of society, the 3 tiers of government, private sector, and others, how do we ensure that we improve their lot? How do we ensure that they get rewarded for the hard work they are doing? How do we ensure that we compensate for the distortions that are coming from outside, whether those involved in farming, crop farming, vegetable farming, fruit farming, fisheries, or livestock? How do we ensure that we modernize them quickly and fast enough wherever they live so that they can generate more income, they can contribute to more growth and do better for themselves in a sustainable manner? And this is all possible. But what is different this time is Mr. President appreciated that we have to reset the relationship. We have to focus on the fact that our federalism, which makes him the chief executive officer of the federation, because that's one of the how he's described in section 130 subsection 2 of our constitution, requires him to lead the federation, to mobilize all tiers of government so that we focus on those particularly fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy that are enshrined in our constitution, which contain the economic, political, social, and environmental objectives, as well as duties of citizens, so that together we have a total of government approach.
I thank you so much, Senator Bagudu. Now, you seem to agree with the sentiment or what was expressed yesterday at the meeting that the president's reform, the vote of confidence in the president's reform to achieving economic recovery. Would you say that this view is shared by the northern region? Would you say that the Tinubu reforms has made the northern region better off? And if you can share with us how? Because of course, I'm sure you have heard, as we have, some of the grumblings or rumblings around the fact that they seem to have been neglected in the scheme of things and they haven't been quite favored in this administration. So I'd like to get your thoughts on that. Then the second aspect of my question would be your statement around crediting the president for promoting true federalism, which you have also stated here again this morning. However, there's a conversation currently by, set up or instituted by Senator Karimi for a reallocation of, resources, asking for more to be given to the federal, even though currently the federal receives 52.68%, state 26.72%, and the local government 20%. Is that a fair? Would you support this bill to be passed for more allocation to the federal?
Okay. Thank you. Well, I think it's even unfair for any Nigerian to assess President Bola Ahmed Tinubu based on a regional sentiment. Of course, we know that Nigeria suffers many fault lines, and we pray that all the measures we are taking will help us cross the fault line. First, Mr. President had always been nationalistic in his approach to our national life. Those who knows him, those who interacted with him personally, and he has probably more than any politician have friends that across the country with whom he shared long life relationship of support, of confidence, of equity. And he demonstrated that as Lagos State Governor. He worked and created a Lagos that works for all, whether you're a northerner, whether you're a southerner. Some of the most prominent businessmen of Lagos are not from the southwest. Some of them, a lot, are from the northwest. And they all talk proudly of how he supported them, how the Lagos he created is supportive of them. And then his history of relationship and support of northerners, particularly northern politicians, if that is what we are more specific about, is there for everyone to see. He supported late President Buhari. He supported, may God grant him paradise. He supported late Yar'Adua. He supported Atiku, Abubakar, or maybe not a popular thing to say for now. He supported Nuhu Ribadu, all in their quest, all is to believe that Nigeria is one united country. So when he came and sought to be president, he was supported by all. The delegates that gathered at Eagle Square voted for him. I happened to chair that presidential primary election, and what was even more, what was quite impressive is that out of the 1,271 votes he garnered, most of them come from all parts of Nigeria. In particular, for example, Northwest, even though there is a candidate, though there is an aspirant from the Northwest, I think the aspirant got one vote out of 588 delegates from the Northwest. So that is the kind of regard and support Mr. President had and still have in the North. Since he became president, I am his Minister of Budget and Planning, and I'm party to every decision, every reform measure that has been taken. I'm party to it. I believe in it. I believe those are the choices that our country need, and of course they will have disproportionate effect. If you are an entrepreneur, maybe the results will quickly show than if you are somebody who needs to gain the skill set. So the reforms have been beneficial to all parts of Nigeria. Okay, Mr. President is undertaking transformational, well, let me finish. He's undertaking transformational projects across all parts of Nigeria. The resource allocations decisions that are taken are equitable, particularly to the north and other parts of Nigeria.
Right, so
and
the next question is how. You know, it's great.
Yes.
We heard this. We heard what you said yesterday as well. It's a broad statement. I would like for you to break it down. How? You know, the question was: have the reforms been better? Has it made northern Nigeria better off? How?
Oh, certainly. What were the fundamental of the reforms? First, the acknowledgement that we are not where we want to be. Our economic trajectory was not how it should be. So to interrupt it, we have to take choices that are bold, courageous, tough, maybe not necessarily pleasant, in order that we will stop the bleeding and in order that we begin to generate resources for all the three tiers of government, whether in the north or in the south or elsewhere in Nigeria. And that's first what we have done. And local governments, all the local governments in the north today are better funded. All the state governments in the north are better, like in the rest of the country. It wouldn't have been so without the reforms. And so that's of course it benefits everywhere in Nigeria, but that is of significance to the north as well, because it means that local governments and state government have more resources in order to do those things that will increase socio-economic indices. Equally, the federal government has generated more resources, which it is using to support either by direct interventions or continue with programs and projects that were even hitherto abandoned, as well as transformational projects. For example, the Elela to Sokoto Badagry is not a campaign request by the North for President. This is something he believes is transformational, and as well as other infrastructure projects.
Okay, Minister. Good to see you and good to talk to you, Minister. Minister, the reforms have not worked, and I'll tell you, I'll give you facts and details. What we've been running is what they call a casino economy, where there's emphasis on over-financialization, but it doesn't get deep down to the people. As a Minister of Planning in this country, look at the budget in shambles. We can hardly meet the quota, and that's why we're extending the budget line into the following year, because we don't even have money to run the budget. We're talking about this morning about how we want to sell assets to be able to bridge the gap with the budget. The Ministry of Health was complaining the other day that they only got a paltry sum out of the over billions of naira budgeted for capital expenditure. As Minister of Budget, the reforms have not worked. Do you know that in Nigeria, close to 80% of the population, precisely 78% of the population, cannot afford to raise 75,000 naira in the space of 5 to 7 days if there's an emergency? Do you know that?
I disagree with you.
No, I'm giving you data from EFINA. You can give me, Minister, you can give me another data, but I'm giving you empirical data from EFINA that 78% of Nigerian population cannot raise 75,000 naira if they have an emergency in the space of a week. That's empirical data. If you have another data, give me, Minister.
I haven't read the EFINA data, but I disagree with you because there are other data bodies, and as to your first question, that the reforms have not worked, I disagree with you, because what we said clearly as a nation, the Renewed Hope agenda, is that we are not where we want to be. We are not shy of admitting it. We are not where we want to be because historically we have underinvested. Our economy is small relative to relative to both our potential and relative to our fears. I mean, we have historically been, the highest federal budget has been under 40 billion US dollars, and at various times, capital budget performance, since 1999, have been less than 100%. In some years, even when oil prices were 147, our capital budget performance was significantly lower than 40%. The budget, which you said is in shambles, no, I disagree with you. We are, like many countries, we are struggling with many pressures to raise revenue to where it should fund our budget 100%, to ensure that we meet our obligations, particularly debt service, to respond to global and international economic environment which distort markets, distort budget planning, distort flow of revenue. Mismatch between revenue and expenditure is a fact of life in any budget system, particularly in a democratic system. We have seen budgets shut down in the United States of America this year, even though the two chambers are controlled by one party. So yes, we can do better, but certainly we are not in shambles. And secondly, because you haven't allowed me to finish answering the first one, I will come back to you if there's more, but there's a question that was asked earlier that I said Mr. President is a true believer in federalism, but Senator
Karimi is pushing, has sponsored a bill for reallocation to give more allocation to the federal.
No, I don't. I just recall that I've not been given the opportunity to answer that question, and I don't want to give the impression that I'm avoiding it. Yes, what is federalism, true federalism? I've said it even yesterday. True federalism is the recognition that different units of governance, at the lowest levels, have potentials that we need to recognize, that we need to support them so that they achieve their. So what I said yesterday was, Mr. President, not only had he supported our federalism or even strengthened it by ensuring that the states and local governments are better funded, unlike what has happened in the past, where accretions, additional revenues were ring-fenced. This one, he allows them to all go to the state. But more than that, we have now acknowledged that we need to go to the ward level. We need to map each ward and determine what are the opportunities in each ward so that each ward can function better. How can and ensure that the three tiers of government cooperate with each other in doing that. And that is, I believe, that should be the ideal. That is true federalism, because if all the 8,809 wards become centers of prosperity, the councillor in the ward knows what is in the ward.
Okay, Minister. Minister. Real quickly, as we wrap up, Minister. Okay, Minister, real quickly, thank you for agreeing with me, because you just said you disagree with me, but you acknowledge that we had challenges in the budget, that we overpromised and we couldn't meet revenue targets. So you agree with me on that. And that's why I said it's in shambles, meaning it's in disarray. So you agree with me on that. Secondly, you've not been able to give me data to back up the fact when I said close to 80% of this population cannot get 25,000 naira in an emergency. So that's just it. Thank you for agreeing with me on that, Minister. Thank you, Dr. Bati.
Okay, just hold on. Senator Bagudu, if you may just hold on. I have an issue. We started this morning with sale of public owned assets to raise additional 189.1 billion to address the deficit of over 25 trillion. And now the argument is that this is just going to be, some kind of sale, to a firefighting sale to get more cash, or, as the analysts and the experts have recommended, to add value? And how is the government going to address the issues of transparency, governance, and value addition, rather than just selling to collect revenue? And who are the people that will get the assets and all that? This sale of public assets that the Minister of the Economy talked about in Saudi Arabia. So if you can take that along to the with the objection by Rufai.
Well, like I said, I disagree with Rufai because he's now being the examiner and he's not even listening to the answers, but he chose to answer, to judge in an opinionated manner. I didn't say that we can't do better, but that does not necessarily mean agreeing with him. And if you quote a statistic that I say I don't know, I think I'm being humble and sincere, but I'm saying there are other indices, the National Bureau of Statistics and other indices, and more so there are other global institutions from World Bank, from IMF, from the magazines, with the Economist magazines, Nigerian commentators who shared the belief that we have done what I said, that we have done well with the macroeconomic reforms, but we must take the reforms to include everyone, and that's what the Mr. President have said. To come back to Ruben, your question, yes, sale of asset is not to fund deficit. It can benefit, the deficit can benefit from that, but it has been an ongoing discussion in our national life. We have, I think since 1991, created a group of public enterprises just to show that, in the belief that there are resources. What I said, sale of asset is not to look for money to pay off deficit. No, yes, deficit will benefit from it, but it has been a national consensus since about 1991 when the group of public enterprises have been created to understand that government is holding to many assets that are not generating value for Nigerians. And it has been done at different levels. Mr. President is bold to say that, look, let's call a spade a spade. We just saw yesterday when the NNPC admitted that in spite of spending $1.5 billion recently on the refineries, they are not working profitably. So why do you hold on to that asset? Why do our aspiration is to utilize our oil and gas assets. Many estimates, the Minister of Petroleum Resources, Oil, Senator Henneken, at the conference said our aspiration, our reserve is that we can grow our oil production to 3 million barrels a day. Why are we at less than 1.5? The Minister of Oil, the Minister of Petroleum Gas said that our gas reserve are about 210 trillion, but we are now utilizing less than 7. Why? Because maybe, among other factors, government has held on to assets that investors are not coming into, and there are opportunities for investors to come and buy into these assets so that they can be put to use and they can contribute to our national prosperity. Will that yield immediate revenue? Yes, but is that the purpose? Is that the only purpose? Certainly no.
All right. Thank you so very much for your time with us this morning, Senator Abubakar Bagudu, Honorable Minister for Budget and Economic Planning. It has been quite an enlightening conversation with you today, and we thank you very much for your time.